The classroom fell silent as Professor Kelvox dimmed the lights. Holographic images floated above the students' desks, showing ancient star charts and faded symbols. 23 young beings from different worlds sat in their seats, their various forms of eyes fixed on the display. Today we discuss the Death World Fables, Kelvox announced, his 4 arms gesturing at the holograms. Every civilization has its myths. Stories told to children, warnings wrapped in fantasy. But the tales of Terra and its humans are perhaps the most persistent legends in our records. A student in the back, a crystalline being named Shira, raised one appendage. "Professor, why do we study fairy tales in an archaeology course?" Kelvox's mandibles clicked in what his species used as a smile. "Because, young Shira, sometimes our ancestors hid truth inside fiction. The human legends speak of a world so hostile that simply living there made its inhabitants into warriors. They called it a death world. Gravity twice what most species consider safe. Predators everywhere. Diseases, extreme weather, and supposedly the humans thrived there." Another student, this one a floating gas form named Pell, pulsed with color. "But humans never existed, correct? They are make-believe?" "The historical consensus says yes," Kelvox replied. "We have found no concrete evidence of their existence. No bones, no verified technology, only stories and symbols that could mean anything. Some fringe researchers claim humans were real and went extinct. Others say they were real and simply left our region of space. Most serious scholars agree they were invented by ancient storytellers." The hologram changed, showing an image of a bipedal creature standing upright, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a rounded head. The student stared at the primitive drawing. "According to the fables, humans looked like this. They walked on 2 legs like several species we know. But the stories claimed they were persistence hunters. They would chase their prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They could survive on nearly any organic matter. They formed complex social bonds and would die protecting their groups. And most fantastical of all, they supposedly could throw objects with incredible accuracy and force, a trait almost no other species developed naturally." Some students laughed. The idea seemed ridiculous. The legends also claimed humans felt something they called stubbornness. When the universe said no, humans would simply refuse to accept it. They would find another way or die trying. Of course, this is clearly mythological exaggeration. No species could survive with such an inefficient mindset. Kelvox moved to the next image. It showed a symbol, a circle of blue and green with white swirls. This is supposedly Terra, the human homeworld, also called Earth in their language. A water world orbiting a yellow star. The coordinates appear in several ancient texts, but they all contradict each other. Some expeditions have searched. They found nothing but empty space or systems with no habitable worlds. The lecture continued for another hour, covering various human myths, stories of humans splitting atoms for power, humans leaving their world in primitive chemical rockets, humans making music and art even during wars. All of it filed neatly under ancient mythology, suitable for academic discussion but nothing more. As the students filed out, chattering about their next classes, none of them knew that across the galaxy, the Concordat Council was making a decision that would change everything. The council chamber orbited a neutron star, its shields shimmering against the radiation. Inside, representatives from 47 species gathered in the vast circular room. At the center podium stood Chairman Voss, a tall reptilian being with purple scales and calculating eyes. "The matter before us is simple," Voss announced, his voice amplified across the chamber. "The Outer Vale Mining Corporation requests permission to begin resource extraction in Sector 447G. The system contains significant deposits of rare minerals, particularly on the moons of the system's gas giants. Environmental scans show one marginally habitable world, but only primitive electromagnetic signals. No spacefaring capability detected. No response to our long-range hails." A council member from the Velkith species raised a tentacle. "What level of primitive activity?" "Radio waves, primarily," responded a technician, pulling up data. "Television broadcasts in outdated formats. Simple satellite networks. Nuclear fission power. They haven't even achieved fusion yet. Based on our development scales, they are at least 500 cycles away from space colonization." "Any archaeological significance to the system?" asked another council member. The technician checked his files. "The system designation matches curious. It matches several old coordinate sets in the Terra legends. But we've investigated dozens of Terra Legend systems. All have proven empty or misidentified. This is likely another false match. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Terra Legends were known to everyone like stories of ghosts or ancient gods. The humans again, Voss said with amusement in his voice. Those persistent fairy tales. Well, if the humans were ever real, they are certainly long gone now. And these primitives in Sector 447G show none of the legendary human characteristics. No spacecraft, no quantum communications, no advanced weapons, just radio chatter and chemical rockets that barely reach their own moon. What about the Prime Protection Directive? Asked a younger council member. Should we not leave primitive species alone until they develop space travel? Voss's eyes narrowed. The Protection Directive was created to prevent cultural contamination. However, these beings will not even know we are there. Our mining will occur in their outer system, far from their world. They lack the sensors to detect us. By the time they develop space travel, we will have completed extraction and departed. They will never know we existed. The vote was called. 41 council members approved. 6 abstained. None voted against. The Outer Vale Mining Corporation received their permits within hours. Within days, their fleet entered Sector 447G. Within weeks, massive mining platforms surrounded the moons of the system's largest gas giant. Harvester ships carved into asteroids. Refinery stations processed millions of tons of ore. The third planet from the star, the one with the primitive radio signals, was noted in logs and ignored. It was a blue and green world with white clouds, orbiting a yellow sun exactly as the Terra Legends described. But that was clearly coincidence. The galaxy was vast. Many worlds looked similar. The mining supervisor, a being named Thexol, stood on the command deck of the primary mining station. Through the viewport, he watched harvester drones pull apart a small moon, extracting its mineral-rich core. Productivity is exceptional, reported his assistant. We're ahead of schedule by 20%. At this rate, we'll complete the contract in half the estimated time. Excellent, Thexol replied. Inform the corporation. They will be pleased. Sir, we have detected some unusual activity from the inner system, the assistant said, checking a scanner. The primitive world has launched several new satellites in the past week, and there's been an increase in encrypted signals. Thexol glanced at the data, unconcerned. Primitives upgrade their technology constantly. It's normal development. As long as they stay on their world, they are irrelevant to our operation. What Thexol didn't know was that 12 light minutes away, in an underground facility beneath the surface of the planet humans called Earth, alarms were screaming. Massive holographic displays showed the mining fleet in perfect detail. Every ship, every station, every drone was tracked and categorized. General Sarah Martinez stood in the command center, her jaw tight as she watched the alien fleet strip mine humanity's outer solar system. Around her, dozens of officers monitored stations, their faces grim. They're taking Jupiter's moons apart, reported an analyst. 3 of them are already gone. They'll reach Europa in 6 days at their current pace. Any hostile moves toward Earth or Mars? Martinez asked. Negative. They seem focused entirely on resource extraction. Our stealth satellites show no weapons charging, no scouts approaching inner system. They either don't know we're here or don't care. Martinez turned to her communications officer. Status on the Lunar Farside facility? All personnel are on high alert. Professor Chen's team has been evacuated to the underground sections. They're monitoring the situation. For decades, humanity had maintained a policy of silence. When their long-range telescopes and quantum sensors had first detected the galactic concordate, the decision had been made at the highest levels. Earth would watch and wait. They would learn about this galactic community before revealing themselves. They would appear primitive while secretly advancing far beyond what any of the alien species had achieved. It had been a controversial decision, but recent human history had taught hard lessons. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself 3 times before finally achieving peace. The scars of those wars still marked the Earth. When faced with an entire galaxy of unknown species, caution seemed wise. So Earth had broadcast old television shows and radio signals, creating the illusion of a civilization still in its technological infancy. Meanwhile, in hidden facilities across the solar system, human science had advanced in revolutionary leaps. Quantum computers, fusion power, genetic enhancement, neural interfaces, nanotechnology, anti-gravity, and weapons, terrible, powerful weapons that humanity hoped they would never need to use. Now aliens were in their system, taking resources without permission, and humanity faced its first real test. General, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Security Council, an officer announced. Martinez accepted the connection. The faces of 12 individuals appeared on her screen, representing Earth's unified government. General Martinez, what is the situation? Asked Secretary General Okonkwo. The alien mining operation continues. They've established a major presence in the outer system. No direct threat to Earth yet, but they're destroying our solar system's resources without even asking permission. They're ships, Okonkwo said carefully. Could we stop them if needed? Martinez allowed herself a thin smile. Mr. Secretary, we could stop them before they knew they were in a fight. Our technology is centuries beyond theirs, but that would reveal our true capabilities. The question is whether we want to make that revelation now. The Council is divided, Okonkwo admitted. Some want immediate action. Others want to continue observing. We're calling for a vote within 24 hours. Until then, maintain alert status but take no offensive action. Understood, sir. The transmission ended. Martinez turned back to the displays, watching the alien fleet tear apart humanity's solar system piece by piece. Her hands clenched at her sides. Ma'am, called out another officer. We have a problem. One of the mining ships has entered lunar orbit. They're scanning the surface. Can they detect our far side base? Negative. It's too deep and too well shielded, but what? The officer's face went pale. Ma'am, they're preparing a kinetic impactor. It looks like they're going to test the moon's structural integrity for potential mining operations. Martinez's blood went cold. Where will it impact? The officer checked the trajectory calculations. His hand shook as he entered the data. Direct hit on the far side. Grid section 7. That's right on top of Research Station 12, Martinez finished. 3,000 people. We have 18 minutes to evacuate, the officer said. There's no time, Martinez replied. The evacuation tunnels would take 40 minutes minimum. We can't. She stopped, making a decision that would change the course of history. Activate the base shields. Full power. If they detect the energy signature, so be it. We're not letting our people die. Yes, ma'am. The orders shot across space at light speed. On the moon's far side, ancient shield generators hummed to life, technology far beyond anything the aliens had ever encountered. Energy barriers invisible to the naked eye formed a dome over the research station. 4 minutes later, a 10-ton projectile of compressed metal slammed into the lunar surface at 30 kilometers per second. The impact was visible from Earth, a bright flash on the moon's dark rim. But where there should have been a crater, there was only scorched rock. The shield had held. The station beneath was untouched. On the mining ship, alarms blared. The crew stared at their sensors in confusion and growing fear. Sir, the sensor operator said slowly. The kinetic impactor. It was deflected. By some kind of energy field. A field that just appeared exactly where we were about to strike. Thexal stared at the data, his mind struggling to comprehend. That's impossible. The primitives don't have shield technology. We've monitored them. They're centuries away from... Every console on the bridge went dark. Then they flickered back to life, displaying a single message in perfect concordant standard language. Leave our system, now. Across the solar system, every single mining ship, every station, every drone received the same message simultaneously. The electromagnetic spectrum erupted with encrypted signals far more advanced than anything the Concordat used. And from the third planet from Earth, a dozen objects launched into space, accelerating at speeds that should have been impossible. In the council chamber, billions of kilometers away, Chairman Voss received an emergency transmission from the mining fleet. Thexal's terrified face filled the screen. Mr. Chairman, we have a situation. The primitives. They're not primitive. They have technology beyond our understanding. They detected our presence. They shielded against our kinetic test. And sir, they just threatened us. They know our language. They know we're here. What do we do? Voss stared at the transmission, his mind reeling. He pulled up the system designation. Sector 447G. Third planet from a yellow star. Blue and green world with white clouds. The Terra Legends. Get them out of there, Voss ordered. Emergency evacuation. Leave everything and run. But it was already too late. The objects launched from Earth reached the mining fleet in minutes, moving faster than should have been possible. They didn't attack. They simply surrounded every ship, weapons powered but not firing, waiting, And from Earth, a new transmission reached the council chamber. It showed a human woman, standing tall in a military uniform, her eyes hard as diamonds. "My name is Ambassador Chen Wei," she said in perfect Concordate standard. "You have trespassed in our system. You have stolen our resources. And you nearly killed 3,000 of our people. You thought we were primitives. You thought we were fairy tales. You were wrong on both counts. You have 72 hours to withdraw every ship from the Sol system and transmit the coordinates of every decision-maker who authorized this invasion. Fail to comply, and you will learn exactly why the legends about humans should have terrified you." The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Species representatives shouted at each other, demanded answers, called for military response or immediate surrender. Chairman Voss sat in silence, staring at the frozen image of Ambassador Chen's face. Behind her in the transmission, he had seen glimpses of Earth's command center. Technology that gleamed with impossible sophistication. Holographic displays showing the entire Concordat territory mapped in perfect detail. The humans hadn't just been watching the mining fleet. They had been watching everything. For how long? How much did they know? And most terrifying of all, what would they do next? The 72 hours began counting down. In the Concordat's most secure archives, buried under layers of classified encryption, ancient files automatically flagged and rose to the surface. Files that had been sealed for 2,000 years. Files that told a very different story about the Terra legends. Files that explained why humans had been called extinct, when the truth was so much worse. The Concordat had forgotten, but the records remembered. Humans weren't a fairy tale. They were a warning. A warning that had just come true. The mining fleet sat frozen in space, surrounded by 12 sleek human vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. Inside the Concordat ships, crews waited in terror, knowing their weapons were useless against the shield technology they had witnessed. The 72-hour deadline ticked down with mechanical precision. On Earth, in the same underground command center where General Martinez had made her fateful decision, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before a massive holographic display that showed real-time feeds from across the Concordat territory. 47 species, thousands of worlds, all connected by quantum communication networks that humanity had been secretly monitoring for 30 years. "Status report," Chen requested, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. "All stealth observation posts report ready," replied Commander Jackson, a tall man with gray hair and steady hands. "We have eyes on every major Concordat military installation. Their fleet positions, weapon capabilities, shield frequencies. Everything is cataloged. And our fleet? Battle Group Terra is in position at the system's edge. Battle Groups Luna, Mars, and Titan are on standby in hidden positions throughout the Sol system. We have numerical disadvantage but technological superiority of approximately 200 years." Chen nodded slowly. 200 years. That was the estimate of how far ahead human technology had leaped during their decades of isolation and focused development, while the Concordat had stagnated in comfortable superiority, never facing a serious threat. Humanity had pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Dr. Yamamoto, status on the quantum communication tap. A woman with intelligent eyes and quick fingers dancing across a holographic keyboard looked up. "We're into their network completely, Ambassador. They still don't know we're listening. Every communication, every order, every private message between council members. We hear it all. Good. Let's see how they respond to our ultimatum." The main display shifted to show the Concordat council chamber. Through cameras that didn't exist in any official record, humanity watched their would-be invaders debate. Chairman Voss stood at the center podium, trying to maintain order as representatives shouted over each other. The crystalline Shrell ambassador demanded immediate military action. The gaseous Pell delegate urged caution and negotiation. The insectoid Vrex representative called for scientific investigation before any decisions were made. "Order," Voss shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We will proceed logically. First, we must determine if this threat is real or an elaborate hoax." "A hoax?" The Shrell ambassador's voice rang like breaking glass. "They disabled our mining fleet with a message. They deployed vessels that moved faster than our sensors could track. What more proof do you need?" "Admiral Kresh," Voss called, addressing a massive armored being in the corner of the chamber. "Your military assessment?" Admiral Kresh stepped forward. His species, the Vaktesh, known throughout the Concordat as the Supreme Warriors. His people had conquered 12 systems before joining the Concordat peacefully, their military might unquestioned. The ships surrounding our mining fleet are unlike anything in our databases, Kresh said in a deep, grinding voice. Their energy signatures suggest power generation capabilities that exceed our theoretical models. However, I see only 12 vessels. Even with superior technology, 12 ships cannot threaten the full might of the Concordat Navy. We have 40,000 warships. I recommend we send a peacekeeping force to remind these humans of the scale they face. Peacekeeping force, Chen muttered in the Earth Command Center, her tone dripping with irony. Is that what we're calling invasion fleets now? General Martinez stood beside her. They're underestimating us. Classic mistake. Good, Chen replied. Let them. The harder they come, the more clearly we demonstrate capability. Dr. Yamamoto, prepare the demonstration package. If they vote for military action, we'll need to educate them quickly. Back in the council chamber, the vote was called. Send a peacekeeping fleet to Sol system. Investigate the human claims, secure Concordat assets, and demonstrate the consequences of threatening Concordat operations. The vote passed 38-9. Admiral Kresh wasted no time. Within hours, 500 Concordat warships assembled at Rally Point Gamma, a staging area 2 weeks' travel from Sol system. These were not mining vessels or exploration ships. These were dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, and cruisers. Ships designed for war, carrying weapons that could crack continents and boil oceans. The fleet departed with great ceremony. Concordat media covered it extensively. Peacekeeping fleet responds to mysterious threat, read the headlines. Experts were interviewed. Military analysts predicted easy resolution. Some species expressed concern about potential first contact protocols. But these voices were drowned out by confidence and curiosity. Nobody in the Concordat expected what happened next. The peacekeeping fleet traveled for 13 days through faster-than-light transit lanes. On the 14th day, they dropped out of FTL at the outer edge of the Sol system. Weapons charged and sensors sweeping space for targets. They found 3 ships waiting for them. 3. Not 300 or 3,000. 3 single vessels, each roughly the same size as a Concordat cruiser. Hanging motionless in the void like patient predators, Admiral Kresh, commanding from his flagship Unbreakable Will, studied the sensor data with confusion. Only 3? Where is their fleet? This must be an advanced scout group. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, reported the communications officer. On screen. Ambassador Chen appeared, but she wasn't in a command center anymore. She stood on what appeared to be the bridge of one of the 3 human vessels, surrounded by displays and crew members working with calm efficiency. Admiral Kresh, she said, pronouncing his name perfectly. You have entered the Sol system with an invasion fleet. This is your final warning. Turn back now or we will be forced to demonstrate why that would be the wiser choice. Kresh's mandibles clicked in amusement. I have 500 warships. You have 3. Your mathematics is as primitive as your understanding of power. Surrender your vessels and submit to Concordat authority. We will show mercy if you comply immediately. Chen's expression didn't change. I gave you a chance. Remember that. The transmission ended. Kresh turned to his tactical officer. Target those 3 ships. Fire when ready. 500 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could vaporize mountains lanced through space. Missiles with antimatter warheads streaked toward the human vessels. Kinetic weapons moving at relativistic speeds created deadly trajectories. None of it reached the targets. The 3 human ships simply flickered and disappeared, moving faster than Concordat sensors could track. They reappeared scattered throughout the enemy fleet, moving between ships like ghosts. And then they began their demonstration. The first human ship fired a single pulse of blue energy at a Concordat destroyer. The beam didn't explode the ship. Instead, it passed through the destroyer's shields as if they didn't exist and touched the hull. Instantly, every system on the destroyer died. Power, life support, weapons, communications, propulsion, everything went dark. The ship became a lifeless tomb drifting in space. The second human ship deployed what looked like small drones, no larger than a person's hand. These drones moved through the fleet at impossible speeds, attaching to Concordat vessels. Wherever they touched, hull metal began to dissolve, restructured at the molecular level into something harmless and inert. The third human ship did something even more terrifying. It simply appeared next to Kresh's flagship, close enough that crew members could see it through the viewports. It did nothing, just hung there, weapons powered, but not firing, waiting. A message was clear. We could destroy your flagship at any moment. We're choosing not to. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 6 minutes. When it ended, 312 Concordat warships were disabled, their crews alive but helpless. The remaining ship's weapons had proven completely ineffective against human shields and speed. Not a single human vessel had been scratched. Impossible, Kresh whispered, staring at his tactical displays in disbelief. This is impossible. Sir, incoming transmission from the humans, his communications officer said, voice shaking. Chen appeared again. Behind her, Admiral Kresh could see human crew members working calmly, as if the last 6 minutes hadn't been a complete paradigm shift in galactic power dynamics. Admiral Kresh, your weapons are impressive by Concordat standards. Unfortunately for you, we stopped using energy beam weapons 70 years ago. They're inefficient. Your shields are sophisticated for your understanding of physics. We use quantum phase technology now. Your ships can't touch us, but we can touch you whenever we choose. She paused, letting that sink in. I'm going to do something now that your culture might consider weakness. I'm going to explain exactly what happened today, and I'm going to broadcast it across your entire communication network so every species in the Concordat knows the truth. Do you know why I'm doing this? Kresh said nothing, still in shock. Because we don't want to fight you, Chen continued. We never did. We wanted to watch, learn, and decide if you were a galactic community worth joining. You made that decision difficult when you invaded our system. You made it impossible when you nearly killed 3,000 of our people. But even now, after you came here with 500 warships to conquer us, we have killed none of your crews. Every disabled ship has life support and emergency power. Your people will survive until rescue arrives. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. Let me be very clear about what comes next. You have 5 days to do 3 things. 1. Remove every Concordat vessel from the Sol system. 2. Deliver the names and locations of every individual who authorized the mining operation and this military response. 3. Broadcast a full admission to your entire population that humans are real, that you invaded our territory without permission, and that you were defeated. And if we refuse? Kresh found his voice, though it trembled. Then we stop being merciful, Chen said simply. Admiral, we have mapped every military installation you have, every shipyard, every command center, every weapons platform. We know where your leaders live. We know where your colonies are. We know everything about you, and you know almost nothing about us. This is not a war you can win. But it is a war we desperately don't want to fight. She gestured to something off-screen, and the display changed to show footage. Kresh watched in growing horror as human soldiers moved through simulated environments that perfectly matched Concordat architecture. They were training to board Concordat ships, training to fight in Concordat gravity and atmosphere, training for a war they hadn't started but were clearly prepared to finish. 5 days, Admiral. Use them wisely. The transmission ended, but immediately another began. This one was broadcasting on every Concordat frequency, civilian and military. Every screen across 47 species showed the same thing. Complete footage of the battle that had just occurred, from multiple angles, showing with undeniable clarity how easily humanity had defeated the peacekeeping fleet. And then Chen's message played for everyone. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. On Concordat homeworlds, panic spread. The military, the source of security and protection for thousands of years, had been brushed aside like insects. The humans, the fairy tales, the legends were real and were vastly more powerful than anyone had imagined. Concordat networks exploded with arguments. Some species called for immediate surrender. Others demanded total war, unwilling to accept this sudden fall from power. Scientists begged for an explanation of how humans had achieved such technological superiority. Religious leaders claimed it was judgment for forgotten sins. In the archives, the ancient sealed files began to circulate. Fringe historians who had always suspected the truth about humans started publishing their research. The pieces came together slowly, Then all at once. 2,000 years ago, humanity had first encountered the Concordate's predecessor empire. That empire, arrogant and powerful, had attacked human colony ships, enslaved human prisoners, and experimented on human captives. The humans, newer to space and less numerous, had seemed like easy victims. The war that followed had nearly destroyed the old empire. Human fleets had appeared from nowhere, using guerrilla tactics and weapons that pushed ethical boundaries. They had been brutal, efficient, and absolutely unwilling to surrender. The war had ended not with human defeat, but with a negotiated peace after humans demonstrated they could reach the empire's homeworld. And then humanity had done something unexpected. They had left. They had taken their surviving colony ships, returned to Earth, and vanished. The old empire, ashamed of losing to a newer species and desperate to maintain face, had rewritten the histories. They declared humans extinct, made them into legends, convinced themselves the threat was gone. But humanity hadn't died. They had been watching, learning, growing stronger. And now, after the Concordate had carelessly stumbled into Sol system and attacked them, humanity was back, in Earth's command center. Chen watched the Concordate networks with satisfaction. They're learning, finally understanding what they've woken up. 5 days is optimistic, General Martinez noted. Their government is fracturing. Some species want to comply, others want to fight. This could turn into a civil war before they even respond to us. That's their problem to solve, Chen replied. We've shown them the carrot and the stick. Now they decide which they prefer. Dr. Yamamoto cleared her throat. Ambassador, we're intercepting private communications between Admiral Kresh and Chairman Voss. Should I play it? Yes. The recording played. Kresh's voice was defeated, broken. Mr. Chairman, we cannot fight them. I have never said this in my entire military career, but we cannot win this war. Their technology is beyond our comprehension. I recommend immediate compliance with all human demands. Voss responded, his voice tired. The Council is in emergency session. The Vaktesh Empire wants to escalate. They refuse to believe 3 ships could truly defeat 500. They think, you're exaggerating or that our weapons malfunctioned. Then let them come and see for themselves, Kresh shouted. Better yet, send the Vaktesh Emperor himself. Maybe when his flagship is disabled in 30 seconds, he'll understand reality. There was a long pause. Then Voss said quietly, Admiral, we need time. The population is panicking. Governments are collapsing. Species are threatening to leave the Concordate. We need time to stabilize before we can negotiate. We have 5 days, Kresh reminded him. The humans were very clear. Then we will need to move very quickly. The recording ended. Chen turned to her staff. Increase surveillance on the Vaktesh Empire specifically. If they're planning to escalate, I want to know immediately. You think they'll actually try to continue fighting? Martinez asked. Some species measure their worth by their military power, Chen said. Having that power suddenly revealed as inadequate can cause desperate decisions. The Vaktesh Empire has ruled through strength for generations. They might prefer destruction to admitting weakness. She was right to worry. In the Vaktesh home system, Emperor Kral was making exactly that desperate decision. Emperor Kral stood before the assembled war council of the Vaktesh Empire, his massive armored form radiating barely contained fury. Around the obsidian table sat his generals, admirals, and strategic advisors, each one a veteran of countless campaigns that had built the Vaktesh reputation as the galaxy's supreme warriors. You are telling me, Kral said slowly, each word dropping like a hammer, that Admiral Kresh surrendered 500 warships to 3 vessels without destroying even one enemy craft? General Voss, the eldest military advisor, spoke carefully. Emperor, the reports from the battle are consistent across all ships. The human vessels use technology we cannot counter. Our weapons pass through their shields. They moved faster than our targeting systems could track. They disabled our ships without apparent effort. Then Kresh is a coward, Kral declared. Or his crews were incompetent. Or both. My Emperor, another advisor interjected. We have the battle footage. Perhaps if you review it yourself. I have seen the footage. Kral's fist slammed down, cracking the stone table. I see ships going dark. I see weapons missing. I see impossible movements. Do you know what else I see? I see that not one concordate vessel tried ramming the enemy. Not one crew chose to die fighting rather than surrender. That is not a question of technology. That is cowardice. The council members exchanged glances but said nothing. The Vaktesh culture prized honor in battle above all else. The idea of surrender, even to superior force, was considered shameful. To their emperor, Admiral Kresh's decision to stop fighting looked less like pragmatism and more like betrayal of every warrior value. The humans demand we surrender names and accept humiliation, Kral continued. They broadcast their victory across all networks, ensuring every species sees our military defeated. They treat the Concordate like disobedient children. This is intolerable. What are your orders, my emperor? Asked Admiral Vex, commander of the Vaktesh home fleet. Kral turned to a holographic display showing the Sol system. The blue and green planet hung there, beautiful and deceptively peaceful. I want a detailed analysis of their homeworld. Population centers, infrastructure, strategic value. If we cannot defeat their ships in space, we strike at their source. On planet killers? Thos asked quietly. My emperor, that would be a war crime under Concordate law. Every species would turn against us. The Concordate is already broken, Kral replied. Half the species are preparing to surrender to the humans. The other half are paralyzed with fear. There is no Concordate anymore, only the strong and the weak. I refuse to be weak. He pulled up schematics of the Vaktesh Empire's most devastating weapons, planet crackers that could destabilize a world's core, atmospheric igniters that could turn breathable air into fire, biological weapons that could sterilize a planet's surface. We will show these humans that superior technology means nothing if you have no home to return to. Prepare the Death Fleet, maximum stealth approach. If they want war, we will give them extinction. The orders were given. The Vaktesh Empire, acting independently of the Concordate Council, began preparing weapons that had been banned for 300 years. In shipyards hidden throughout their territory, engineers began loading devices that no civilized species should ever use. On Earth, alarms started screaming. Ambassador Chen, Dr. Yamamoto shouted across the command center. The Vaktesh are moving weapons-grade equipment. Heavy radiation signatures consistent with antimatter containment. They're preparing planet killers. Chen's face went pale. She had hoped for compliance, expected resistance, but had underestimated the depth of Vaktesh pride. Verify and track. Where are they staging? Multiple locations. They're trying to hide the fleet dispersal, but our quantum sensors are detecting energy buildups at 12 different shipyards. Best estimate, they're preparing a multi-vector attack on Sol system. General Martinez was already moving to tactical displays. If they launch planet killers, we'll detect them in FTL transit. But Ambassador, if even one gets through to Earth, it won't, Chen said with absolute certainty. Dr. Yamamoto, how long until they can launch? 48 hours at minimum. They're rushing, which means safety protocols are being ignored. These weapons are dangerous even to transport. Chen turned to Martinez. General, activate Defensive Plan Omega. Full deployment around Sol system. And get me a direct line to Emperor Kral. It's time we had a conversation. The communication took 3 hours to establish. Kral refused the first dozen attempts. Finally, whether from curiosity or arrogance, he accepted. His face filled the screen, a brutal visage of armored plates and cold eyes. The human who humiliated the Concordate. You should feel honored that I grant you an audience. Emperor Kral, Chen said calmly, I'm calling to inform you that we are aware of your planet killer preparations. We are aware of the deployment schedules. We know the coordinates of every shipyard involved, and we are giving you one chance to stand down. Kral laughed, a harsh grinding sound. You think I fear your tricks? Your 3 ships defeated a peacekeeping fleet that wasn't prepared for deception. My Death Fleet will not make the same mistakes. We will burn your world to ash and scatter those ashes across space. Then we will see how superior you truly are. Emperor, you don't understand what you're risking. I understand perfectly. You are a species that hides behind technology and demands respect you have not earned through combat. You are clever prey pretending to be a predator. When your homeworld burns, the galaxy will remember that the Vaktesh bow to no one. Chen's expression hardened. Emperor, I didn't want this. Even now, I'm trying to prevent it. But if you launch those planet killers, if you try to harm Earth, you will force us to show the galaxy something we have worked very hard to keep hidden. You will force us to demonstrate the difference between having power and using it. I welcome the demonstration, Kral replied. We will see whose power is greater. The transmission ended. Chen stood still for a moment, her hands clenched at her sides. Around her, the command center had gone silent. "Ambassador?" Martinez asked softly. "Your orders?" Chen took a deep breath. "Authorize battle groups Alpha through Epsilon. Full deployment. Rules of engagement. Minimal casualties, maximum shock effect. If they want to see our power, we'll show them. But we show them on our terms." "Ma'am," Commander Jackson spoke up, "full deployment means revealing our entire fleet. Everything we've kept hidden. Once we show that, there's no taking it back." "They're preparing to destroy Earth," Chen replied quietly. "There's no holding back anymore. Send the authorizations. And, Commander, make sure every second is recorded and broadcast across all Concordate networks. The galaxy needs to see this. All of it." For 30 years, humanity had maintained observation posts throughout Concordate space, small stealth stations in obscure locations, equipped with quantum sensors and communication arrays. These posts had watched, recorded, learned everything about galactic civilization while remaining completely invisible. Now those posts received new orders. "Stop hiding. Start transmitting. Show the galaxy what humanity really was." In the Vaktesh home system, Emperor Kral reviewed the Death Fleet's preparations with satisfaction. 42 vessels, each carrying weapons capable of exterminating life on a planetary scale. They would launch in waves. FTL jumped to the outskirts of Sol system and fire from maximum range. Even if the humans destroyed most of the fleet, probability said at least one planet killer would reach Earth. "My Emperor," Admiral Vex reported, "the Death Fleet is ready for departure. All weapons are armed and crews are prepared. Shall I give the launch order?" "Wait," Kral said, studying the tactical display. Something nagged at him. "Where are the human ships?" "After their demonstration, they should be patrolling, preparing defenses. Our scouts report the Sol system appears almost undefended. Perhaps they truly only had a few vessels," Vex suggested. "Perhaps the rest was illusion and trick." "Perhaps," Kral said slowly. "Or perhaps they're planning their own surprise. Admiral, before we launch, I want confirmation that Earth is still—" Every screen in the command center suddenly shifted. The Vaktesh military network, supposedly secure and encrypted, displayed a new image. Ambassador Chen appeared, but she wasn't on Earth anymore. She stood on an observation deck, and behind her, through massive windows, floated hundreds of human warships. They hung in formation, sleek and deadly, their hulls bearing no marks or identifications. Just ship after ship after ship stretching into the distance. "Emperor Kral," Chen said, "you wanted to see our fleet. This is Battle Group Alpha. We have 4 more battle groups of similar size positioned throughout the galaxy. You're looking at approximately 600 vessels, and that's only a fraction of our total military capability." Kral stared at the impossible sight. Where are you?" "Funny story," Chen replied, a cold smile touching her lips. "Remember how we've been watching you for decades? We've been doing that from somewhere. Emperor, I'm currently in orbit above your 3rd colonial world, Vaktesh Prime 2, beautiful planet. Lovely red skies, 3 billion inhabitants. We've been here for 6 hours, completely invisible to your sensors until we chose to reveal ourselves." The command center erupted in chaos. Alarms blared. Tracking stations reported contacts appearing around multiple Vaktesh worlds simultaneously. Battle Group Alpha above one colony, Battle Group Beta near another, Battle Groups Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon surrounding other strategic locations. In less than 10 seconds, humanity had revealed they had penetrated deep into Vaktesh territory and positioned overwhelming force around their most important worlds without ever being detected. "This is impossible," Kral whispered. "Our sensors, our patrols, our defenses are 200 years behind ours," Chen finished. "Emperor, we could have done this at any time in the last 30 years. We could have destroyed the Vaktesh Empire before you ever knew humans existed. We didn't because we don't want to be conquerors. We wanted to be neighbors. You're forcing us to be something else. If you destroy our worlds, you are no better than the monsters you claim we are," Kral said, his voice gaining strength. "We're not going to destroy your worlds," Chen replied. Watch, on every screen the view shifted. Human ships around Vaktesh colonies powered weapons, but they didn't aim at population centers. Instead, precision strikes lanced down from orbit. Military installations exploded. Weapons platforms disintegrated. Shield generators collapsed. Orbital defense stations simply ceased to exist. The strikes lasted 90 seconds. When they ended, the Vaktesh Empire's military infrastructure around 5 colonies had been surgically removed. No civilian casualties, no collateral damage, just the complete elimination of every military asset in those systems. Your death fleet, Chen continued, is currently surrounded by Battle Group Epsilon. We've disabled your planet-killer weapons remotely. The warheads are now inert. Your fleet is intact. Your crews are alive. But you no longer have the ability to threaten Earth or any other world. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to something quiet and far more terrifying than any shout. Let me tell you what happens now, Emperor. You are going to order your death fleet to stand down. You are going to broadcast an apology to every Vaktesh citizen explaining what you tried to do and why it failed. You are going to step down from power and allow your people to choose new leadership. And then you are going to hope that we are as merciful as we claim to be. And if I refuse? Krall asked, though his voice had lost its strength. Then we start targeting the shipyards that built those planet killers. Then the weapons research facilities. Then the command centers. We will systematically dismantle your military-industrial complex until the Vaktesh Empire cannot threaten anyone ever again. We will do all of this without killing a single civilian. And your people will watch every second of it and know that their emperor's pride brought their fall. The transmission ended. But immediately new transmissions began broadcasting across the entire Concordat network. Footage of human fleets appearing around Vaktesh worlds. Footage of surgical strikes destroying military targets while leaving everything else untouched. Footage of the death fleet surrounded and helpless, their supposedly unstoppable weapons reduced to inert metal. Most devastating of all, the broadcasts included detailed sensor logs showing how long human ships had been present in Vaktesh space. 6 hours for Battle Group Alpha, 12 hours for Beta. Gamma had been in position for 3 days. The humans had been there all along, invisible and patient, waiting to see if the Vaktesh would make the right choice. They had been given every chance to turn back, every opportunity to choose peace. And only when they had committed to genocide had humanity revealed the trap. In the Vaktesh command center, Krall stared at the screens in silence. Around him, his generals and advisors waited for orders that didn't come. The Emperor, who had ruled through strength and intimidation for 40 years, had just learned a painful truth. There was always someone stronger. "My Emperor," Admiral Vex asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Krall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he removed the ceremonial blade from his belt. In Vaktesh culture, this gesture signaled formal surrender and acceptance of defeat. "Broadcast my message to all Vaktesh worlds," Krall said, his voice hollow. "I have failed as Emperor. I let pride blind me to reality. I nearly brought extinction to our people through my arrogance. The Death Fleet is to stand down immediately. All cooperation will be given to the humans, and I formally request that human leadership tell our people what I could not admit. We were beaten before we even began." The message broadcast across Vaktesh space within minutes. The reaction was instantaneous. Some celebrated, relieved that war had been averted. Some raged, furious at their emperor's surrender. Most simply felt shock at seeing their supposedly invincible military revealed as hopelessly outmatched. But more than anything, a single question spread across all 47 Concordat species, asked in 1,000 different languages. If humans could do this to the Vaktesh, the strongest military in known space, what could they do to anyone else? On Earth, Chen watched the broadcasts with tired eyes. "General Martinez, recall all battle groups except Alpha. Have them return to Sol system. We've made our point." "The Concordat Council is requesting immediate communication," Dr. Yamamoto reported. "Chairman Voss wants to talk." "Tell him we'll talk in 24 hours. We need to let this sink in first. Besides, we have preparations to make." "Preparations for what?" Martinez asked. Chen turned to look at Earth through the command center's main viewport. The blue and green world spun peacefully, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. Preparations for first contact. Real first contact, not threats and demonstrations, but actual diplomacy. The Concordat knows what we can do. Now we need to show them who we are. That's going to be much harder. The Concordat Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species representative was present, along with military advisors, legal experts, and historians. The atmosphere was tense with fear, uncertainty, and something else. Hope that somehow this situation could be resolved without further humiliation or destruction. Chairman Voss stood at the central podium, looking older than he had just days ago. The weight of recent events showed in his posture, in the way his hands gripped the podium edge. "This emergency session is called to address the human situation," he announced. 5 days ago, we learned that humans are real and possess technology far beyond our own. 3 days ago, we watched them defeat a 500-ship fleet with 3 vessels. Yesterday, we witnessed them penetrate Vakhtesh defenses and disable planet-killer weapons without firing a shot. Now they have requested formal communication. The question before us is simple. How do we respond? "We surrender," said the Pell representative immediately. "We give them everything they asked for. Names, apologies, reparations. Whatever prevents them from doing to our worlds what they did to the Vakhtesh military." "Surrender implies we are at war," countered the Shrell ambassador. "Perhaps we should approach this differently. They have demonstrated power but also restraint. Not once have they killed civilians despite numerous opportunities. This suggests they may genuinely seek peaceful resolution. Or they're playing with us, Ern," growled a representative from the Thros Confederation, "showing mercy while they position forces for a real attack. We should be preparing defenses, not rolling over." "Defenses?" Admiral Kresh's voice cut through the debate. He had arrived from the disabled peacekeeping fleet, his flagship towed back to Concordat space by human vessels. "I led 500 ships. They disabled us in 6 minutes. The Vakhtesh Empire, our strongest military power, was infiltrated for days without detection. What defenses exactly do you propose that would make any difference?" The chamber fell silent at that blunt assessment. "Then we are helpless," the Thros representative said bitterly, "at the mercy of a species we thought was myth." "Not helpless," Voss corrected. "We have something they seem to want: communication, diplomacy. They have not demanded our destruction or unconditional surrender. They asked for specific things, all of which seem reasonable in context of what we did to provoke this situation." "We didn't know they were real," protested another representative. "Ignorance is not innocence," Kresh replied. "We invaded their system, stole their resources, and nearly killed thousands of their people. Then we sent warships to suppress them. The humans would have been justified in destroying us entirely. Instead, they disabled our ships and kept our crews alive. That restraint is itself a message. A message that says what?" asked the Pell representative. "That they're giving us a chance," Kresh said quietly. "A chance we probably don't deserve." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. Ambassador Chen appeared, and this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a diverse group of humans, each wearing different uniforms representing various Earth nations and organizations. "Chairman Voss, Concordat Council," Chen began. "Thank you for agreeing to this communication. I understand you have many questions. Before we begin formal negotiations, I want to address something that your historians have been discovering in your archives." The display shifted to show ancient files, the sealed records from 2,000 years ago. Documents that detailed the original war between humanity and the Concordat's predecessor empire. Images of human prisoners, records of experiments, battle reports showing human victories and defeats. "Your ancestors rewrote history," Chen continued. "They turned a war they nearly lost into a legend about extinct primitives. They did this to save face, to prevent their populations from living in fear, to maintain control. We understand why they did it. But that rewriting created a dangerous situation." She gestured, and new images appeared. Maps showing human territory at the time of the original war. Small scattered colonies connected by slower-than-light travel. A young civilization just beginning to reach for the stars. 2,000 years ago, humans were new to space. We had maybe 50 colony ships, a few million people spread across a dozen systems. When your predecessor empire attacked us, enslaved our people, and experimented on human captives, we fought back with everything we had. It was brutal, desperate. We pushed ethics aside and focused only on survival. The images shifted to show weapon systems, many marked with warning symbols: biological weapons, quantum disruptors, things that broke fundamental rules of civilized warfare. We won that war not through superior technology, but through absolute refusal to lose. We scared your ancestors so badly that they negotiated peace and we accepted. Then we left. We took our colonies, returned to Sol system, and vanished. Do you know why? Silence from the Concordat. "Because we horrified ourselves," Chen said softly. "We looked at what we had become during that war and decided we needed to change. We spent 2,000 years rebuilding our culture, advancing our technology, and most importantly, deciding what kind of species we wanted to be. We could have returned as conquerors. Instead, we chose to watch and learn. For 30 years you spied on us, the Shrell ambassador said. You infiltrated our space, monitored our communications, mapped our defenses. How is that the action of a peaceful species? Because we remembered what happened last time we made first contact, Chen replied. We rushed into galactic society unprepared and nearly died for it. This time we wanted to understand who we were dealing with before revealing ourselves. And honestly, what we saw gave us hope. She pulled up images of concordate civilization, medical advances, peaceful trade, scientific cooperation, cultural exchanges between species. You built something good here. 47 species working together mostly peacefully. You have laws protecting civilians, treaties preventing genocide, scientific academies sharing knowledge. This is the kind of galactic community we hope to find. That's why we kept watching instead of attacking. Then why reveal yourselves now? Voss asked. If you were content to observe, what changed? You came to our home, Chen said simply. You entered Sol system without permission and started taking our resources. We could have tolerated that with communication, with compensation. But then you nearly killed 3,000 of our people. At that point we had to respond. No species can allow that level of aggression without consequences. So you demonstrated overwhelming force, Voss said. You showed us we are helpless before you. We showed you that violence against us has costs, Chen corrected. But we also showed restraint. Every Concordate crew member we disabled is alive. Every Vaktesh colony we visited remains intact. We could have killed millions. We killed none. That was intentional. She paused, letting that sink in. Chairman Voss, members of the Concordate, we are not here to conquer you. We are here to ensure this never happens again. The mining operation that invaded Sol system was authorized by your government, without proper investigation. The peacekeeping fleet was sent without considering diplomatic alternatives. Emperor Kral tried to launch planet killers without understanding what he was facing. All of this happened because you forgot we existed and never bothered to verify whether the Terra legends were true. And now you want... What? The Thros representative asked. Tribute? Territory? Submission? We want justice, Chen replied. And we want to join you. That caused an uproar. Representatives began shouting over each other, demanding clarification, expressing disbelief. Voss had to call for order 3 times before the chamber quieted enough for Chen to continue. Your response to our ultimatum was clear, Chen said. You have provided the names of everyone involved in authorizing the Sol system operations. You have publicly admitted what happened. You have offered reparations. Those things satisfy our immediate demands. Now we need to discuss long-term solutions. The display changed again, showing a proposal document titled Concordate Reformation Treaty. We propose a new galactic organization, Chen explained. One that includes humanity as an equal member. One with actual enforcement mechanisms to prevent what happened to us from happening to anyone else. One with mandatory investigation protocols before any species enters another's territory. One with severe penalties for first contact violations. You want to rebuild the Concordate with yourselves at the top? The Shrell ambassador said. We want to rebuild it with everyone at the same level. Chen corrected. Including us. We will submit to the same laws we propose. We will allow inspection of our military capabilities. We will share technology where appropriate. We will be partners, not rulers. Why should we trust you? Asked the Pell representative. You have all the power. You could demand anything. Because power without trust is just tyranny, Chen replied. And we learned 2,000 years ago that being tyrants makes us into something we don't want to be. Look at what we did in the past week. We could have destroyed the mining fleet. We let them live. We could have killed Admiral Kresh and his crews. We disabled their ships instead. We could have glassed Vaktesh colonies. We only targeted military installations. She leaned forward, her voice carrying absolute sincerity. We are trying to show you through actions that we mean what we say. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to conquer you. We want to join you. But we will not join a system that allows what happened to us to happen again. The individuals who authorized the Sol operation, Voss said carefully, you want them brought to justice. What does that mean? Trial, Chen said immediately. Public fair with legal representation. We will provide evidence. They will have the right to defend themselves. Guilty verdicts will result in sentences appropriate to the crime. We are not interested in revenge executions or torture. We want justice that the galaxy can witness and accept as legitimate. And if we refuse, the Thros representative challenged, then we withdraw to Sol system and maintain our isolation. Chen replied, we will not attack you, but we will also not help you. And when the next crisis comes, when some species develops technology that threatens the Concordat, when some war erupts that you can't contain, we will stay home and watch. Is that really what you want? To have the most advanced species in the galaxy as neutral neighbors instead of active partners? It was a brilliant argument because it wasn't a threat. It was an offer with clear alternatives. Join us and gain our support, or leave us alone and manage without it. No violence. No coercion. Just choice. The Concordat Council deliberated for 6 hours. Representatives called home for guidance. Military advisors ran simulations. Legal experts reviewed the proposed treaty. Historians provided context on similar situations in galactic history. Finally, Voss called for a vote. The question was simple. Accept humanity's proposal for Concordat reformation and partnership, or reject it and accept humanity's withdrawal from galactic affairs. The vote was 43-4 in favor of acceptance. The 4 dissenting votes came from species with strong military traditions, who couldn't accept the sudden shift in galactic power dynamics. But even they acknowledged the logic of the decision. The Concordat Council accepts your proposal, Voss announced formally. We agree to reformation under the principles you outlined. We agree to justice proceedings for those responsible for the Sol incident. And we welcome humanity as partners in building a better galactic community. Chen smiled, a genuine expression of relief. Thank you, Chairman. Now comes the hard part, actually making it work. But I'm optimistic. We've spent 30 years studying you. You've spent the last week learning about us. Both sides have seen the worst possibilities. Now let's build toward the best ones. The transmission ended, but the work was just beginning. Over the following weeks, human and Concordat legal teams assembled for the war crimes trials. The proceedings were broadcast live across all 47 species networks, a spectacle of justice that the galaxy had never witnessed. The trials were meticulous. Every piece of evidence was presented. Every defendant had legal representation. Every argument was heard. The humans proved to be surprisingly fair prosecutors, focused on establishing facts rather than scoring emotional points. Thexol, the mining supervisor, was found guilty of negligence and unauthorized resource extraction. His sentence, 15 years of community service in Sol system, helping rebuild the lunar colony he had nearly destroyed. Chairman Voss and several council members were found guilty of authorizing military action without diplomatic investigation. Their sentences: removal from office and 20 years of public service in Concordat refugee assistance programs. Emperor Kral was found guilty of attempted genocide for the Planet Killer authorization. His sentence: life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 50 years, contingent on demonstrated rehabilitation. What shocked the galaxy was that no one was executed. No one was tortured. No one simply disappeared. The humans, despite having overwhelming power and justifiable rage, had kept their promise of justice without vengeance. In the aftermath of the trials, something unexpected happened. Public opinion across the Concordat shifted dramatically. Fear of humans didn't disappear, but it was tempered by respect. Species that had considered themselves powerful realized they were middle tier at best. Species that had felt vulnerable now had a powerful ally, and everyone understood that there were rules now, enforced not by threat of death but by certainty of consequences. The Concordat Reformation Treaty was signed 3 months after first contact. Humanity officially joined as the 48th member species, with one critical addition. They held veto power on any military action until such time as the Concordat demonstrated consistent peaceful behavior for 50 years. It was a reasonable compromise. The Concordat gained access to human technology, military protection, and medical advances. Humanity gained partnership with thousands of worlds and integration into galactic society. Both sides gave up some sovereignty for greater collective security. On Earth, Ambassador Chen stood in her office, looking at a hologram of the treaty signing. Around her, framed on the walls, were images from the past months. The disabled peacekeeping fleet, the Vaktesh colonies under human blockade, the trial proceedings, and finally, representatives from 48 species standing together as the reformed Concordat was established. "We did it," General Martinez said, standing beside her. "We went from myth to reality to partners in less than 4 months. History will remember this." "History will remember that we had power and chose mercy," Chen replied. "That's more important than the technology or the battles. They needed to see that humans with overwhelming force could still choose justice." "Do you think it will last?" Martinez asked. "This peace?" "Nothing lasts forever," Chen said. "But we've built something good here. A foundation. 48 species working together, with enforcement mechanisms that actually work. It's better than what came before." She turned to look at Earth through her office window. Somewhere down there, children were being born who would grow up in a galaxy where humans weren't myths or monsters, just another species trying to build something better. "We called ourselves a fairy tale once," Chen said softly. "A legend to scare children. Now we're just neighbors. That's progress." 5 years had passed since humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. In that time, the Concordat had transformed in ways that still surprised everyone involved. The council chamber where species representatives gathered looked similar to before, but everything else had changed. Dr. Yamamoto walked through the halls of the Concordat Science Academy, her current position as director of Xenotechnology Exchange still feeling surreal sometimes. Around her, humans worked alongside crystalline Shrell researchers, gaseous Pell scientists, and dozens of other species. The building hummed with collaboration that would have been impossible just years ago. "Director Yamamoto," called a familiar voice. She turned to see Professor Kelvox approaching. The same being who had once taught students that humans were fairy tales. He had become one of humanity's strongest advocates after the truth emerged. "Professor," she greeted him warmly, "how are your students handling the quantum mechanics curriculum?" Kelvox's mandibles clicked in amusement. "They are struggling beautifully. Human physics education is rigorous, but they are learning. Just yesterday, a Thra student successfully calculated quantum probability matrices that would have taken Concordat scientists decades to develop previously." "That's because we're sharing what we learned," Yamamoto replied. "Technology doesn't help anyone if it stays secret. A philosophy not everyone shares," Kelvox noted, gesturing to a display showing recent news. "The resistance movement grows louder each day." The resistance was what media called the coalition of species and individuals who still opposed humanity's integration into the Concordat. They weren't violent, but they were vocal, arguing that humans had effectively conquered the galaxy through intimidation rather than actual partnership. "I saw the latest protests," Yamamoto acknowledged. 3,000 demonstrators on the Shrell homeworld demanding we leave Concordat space. It's their right to disagree. You don't seem concerned. Should I be? They're protesting peacefully, expressing their opinions freely and not being punished for it. That's exactly what a healthy democracy looks like. If they were silent, that would concern me. Kelvox considered this. 5 years ago, if someone had protested against the Concordat Council, they would have been silenced. Now they protest against humanity itself, and humans defend their right to do so. This still confuses many species. "Power means nothing if you use it to suppress disagreement," Yamamoto said. "We learned that lesson the hard way. Multiple times, actually." They walked together toward the main laboratory complex where the day's major announcement would take place. Representatives from all 48 species had gathered for the unveiling of the Joint Human Concordat Medical Initiative. Ambassador Chen stood at the podium, 5 years older, but still carrying the same determined energy she had shown during those first tense days of contact. Beside her stood Dr. Sarah Okafor, humanity's leading specialist in genetic medicine. "Thank you all for coming," Chen began. 5 years ago, we revealed ourselves to the galaxy under the worst possible circumstances. Today we reveal something else. The results of collaborative medical research between human and Concordat scientists. The display activated, showing complex genetic sequences and molecular structures. Dr. Okafor took over the presentation. "Working with researchers from 23 different species, we have developed treatments for 17 previously incurable diseases. Not human diseases. Not diseases we brought with us. Diseases that have plagued Concordat species for thousands of years." The crowd murmured with interest. Okafor continued, detailing treatments for a crystalline degradation disease that affected the Shrell, a neural disorder common in the Pell, a genetic condition that shortened Vaktesh lifespans by 30%. Human medical technology focused heavily on genetic manipulation and cellular regeneration, Okafor explained. Technologies we developed during our 2,000 years of isolation. We're sharing these advances freely with all Concordat members. No patents, no fees, no strings attached. Why? Called out a voice from the crowd. A Thros delegate stood, her expression skeptical. Why give away such valuable technology? Chen stepped back to the podium. Because that's what partners do. You're not our customers or our subjects. You're our neighbors. When neighbors have something that can help, they share it. Your human ships still patrol Concordat space, the Thros delegate pressed. Your bases remain on strategic worlds. Your technology gives you overwhelming advantage. These medical treatments feel like compensation. Like you're trying to make us feel better about being conquered. The room went silent. This was the core argument of the resistance movement. That humanity had effectively taken control through superior force and was now trying to paint it as partnership. Chen didn't look angry. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully. You're not wrong to question it. Let me show you something. The display changed, showing military readiness reports, human fleet deployments, technology assessments, strategic positions, everything laid out in transparent detail. These are our complete military capabilities, Chen said. Exact ship numbers. Technology specifications, current deployments, everything. We're releasing this publicly right now to all Concordat members. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Military secrets of this scale were never revealed publicly. You're seeing our greatest advantage stripped away, Chen continued. Intelligence, surprise, secret capabilities. We're giving that up because you're right. True partnership requires trust and trust requires transparency. So here's everything. Our military is now an open book. She pulled up another document. This is our proposal for phased military integration. Over the next 10 years, we will systematically transfer advanced technology to Concordat defense forces. We will train your officers. We will build joint ships crewed by mixed species teams. By the end of the decade, there will be no human military advantage. We will all be equal in capability. The Thros delegate stared at the proposal. You would give up your greatest advantage? It's not an advantage if it prevents real partnership, Chen replied. 5 years ago, we showed you we were more powerful. Now we need to show you that we're willing to equalize that power. Yes, it's a risk. Yes, some species might use the technology against us. But that risk is necessary for trust. The Vaktesh Empire, someone called out. They tried to destroy Earth. You're willing to share weapons technology with them? Chen turned to look directly at the Vaktesh representative, a younger leader named Vexala, who had taken power after Kral's imprisonment. Vexala, would your people use advanced weapons against humanity if given the chance? Vexala stood slowly. Her species' warrior culture showed in her posture, but her words were measured. 5 years ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Today I have a different answer. She pulled up images on her personal display. They showed human medical teams working on Vaktesh colonies, engineers helping rebuild infrastructure, teachers in Vaktesh schools. When Emperor Kral fell, our empire was broken, Vexala said. Our pride destroyed. Our military revealed as inadequate. We expected humans to leave us to collapse. Instead, they sent aid. Medical supplies, technology, food shipments when our agricultural systems failed. They helped us when they had every reason to let us suffer. She gestured to a human doctor in the crowd, a woman named Dr. Lisa Park. Dr. Park spent 3 years on Vaktesh Prime treating a plague outbreak. She saved 11 million lives. My daughter was one of them. So when you ask if we would use weapons against humanity, I say no. Not because we fear them, but because they earned something more valuable than fear. They earned our respect. The crowd erupted in conversation. Chen waited for it to quiet before speaking again. This is what we're building, she said. Not conquest disguised as partnership. Actual partnership where power is shared. Where trust is earned, where species help each other not from obligation but from genuine care. It's messy. It's slow. And yes, some will always doubt our intentions. But it's real. The Thros delegate sat down slowly, her skepticism not gone but clearly reconsidering. The presentation continued with more details about the medical initiative, the military integration proposal, and other joint projects in development. After the formal proceedings ended, Chen found herself in a quiet observation lounge overlooking the Concordat capital world. General Martinez joined her, now retired from active military service but still serving as an advisor. "You gave away our military secrets," Martinez said without preamble. "Command is having collective heart attacks. They'll survive," Chen replied. "We can't ask for trust while hiding our capabilities. Besides, technology sharing was always part of the long-term plan. Still risky. Some species will study our designs, find weaknesses, develop counters. Good. That means they're thinking strategically instead of just accepting our protection passively. An alliance of equals is stronger than a collection of dependents." Martinez was quiet for a moment. "You know the resistance will call this manipulation. They'll say we're only sharing power because we've already consolidated control." "They're not entirely wrong," Chen admitted. "We did consolidate control, just not the way they think. We control the narrative. We control the pace of change. We make ourselves look generous while staying strategically positioned. But here's the thing, General. Eventually, that control has to become real partnership. Eventually, we have to actually give up the advantages, or we become exactly what they fear. And you think 10 years is enough time? I think it's a start." They watched the city below, a sprawling metropolis where 48 species lived and worked together. 5 years ago, this level of integration would have been impossible. Now it was simply normal. "I got a message from Earth yesterday," Martinez said. "From my granddaughter. She's 7 years old. Her best friend is a young Pell named Shimmerlight. They go to integrated school together, learn human and Concordat history side by side. To her, aliens aren't scary or strange. They're just other kids," Chen smiled. "That's the real victory. Not the military demonstrations or the treaties. The fact that a human child and a Pell child are friends, that's what changes the galaxy." Across the city in a small apartment, that very conversation was happening. A young girl named Emma sat at a desk doing homework while a floating ball of colored gas pulsed beside her. Shimmerlight, the Pell child, helped her with math problems while Emma helped Shimmerlight practice reading Human Standard. "My grandfather says humans used to be myths," Shimmerlight said. "Stories to scare children. Now you're just Emma, that's funny." "My teacher said your people used to be invisible to our sensors," Emma replied. "We didn't even know you existed. Now you're just Shimmer. That's funny too." They laughed. The easy laughter of children who didn't care about history or politics or military capabilities. They cared about finishing homework so they could go play. In a hospital on the Vaktesh homeworld, Dr. Lisa Park finished her shift treating patients with the new genetic therapies. Her Vaktesh assistant, a young warrior caste member named Threx, helped her review the day's cases. 17 successful treatments today, Threx noted. "The crystalline degradation cure works even better than projected. We should publish the result." "Agreed," Park said, then noticed Threx's expression. "Something wrong?"
"Doctor, may I ask you something personal?"
"Of course. 5 years ago, my people tried to destroy your world. We built weapons to kill billions of your people. Yet you came here and saved millions of ours. Why?" Park considered the question carefully. "Because the people who tried to destroy Earth were leaders making terrible decisions. The people dying in hospitals were just people who got sick. They weren't responsible for Emperor Krall's choices. Why should they suffer for his mistakes? In Vaktesh culture, we believe a species is defined by its actions during war. Humans defeated us completely but killed no one. Then you came and healed us. This defines your species as something we have no cultural framework for. You are not conquerors, not prey, not neutral observers. What are you?" Park smiled. "We're trying to be good neighbors. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. But we keep trying." "Good neighbors," Threx repeated slowly. "We will need to add that category to our cultural database. Meanwhile, in the deep archives of the Concordat Historical Library, Professor Kelvox worked with a team of researchers examining the original Terra legends. With human cooperation, they had access to actual historical records now, comparing myth to reality. The legends said humans were persistence hunters who never gave up, noted a young Shrell researcher. That part was accurate. The legends said they could survive on any world and turn hostile environments into homes, added a Pell historian. Also accurate. Earth was genuinely a death world by Concordat standards. The legends said they would die protecting their families. Kelvox read from an ancient text, that they formed bonds so strong nothing could break them. We saw this when they revealed themselves to protect the lunar colony. He pulled up another document, one of the original war records from 2,000 years ago. But here's what the legends got wrong. They painted humans as unstoppable warriors who knew no mercy. The reality is more complex. They were desperate survivors who went too far in self-defense, then pulled back when they won because they didn't like what they had become. So the myths were partially true, the Shrell researcher said. Humans are dangerous. But they're dangerous like a protective parent, not like a mindless predator. Exactly, Kelvox agreed. The old empire made humans into monsters in the stories to justify their own defeat, made them into something less than people. The truth is, humans are people who can be monstrous when threatened, but choose not to be when given alternatives. That's scarier in a way, because it means the monstrousness is a choice, not nature. The research team continued their work, knowing that accurate history was crucial for future relations. Children across the Concordat needed to learn the truth about humanity, not simplified myths or propaganda. Back at the Concordat Council chamber, a situation was developing that would test everything humanity had built. A new species had been discovered on the far edge of explored space. The Zix, an insectoid civilization that had just developed faster than light travel, had stumbled into Concordat territory. Chairman Voss called an emergency session. Ambassador Chen attended via hologram from Earth, where she was visiting family. The Zix represent our first major first contact situation since humanity joined the Concordat, Voss explained. Under the old protocols, we would send a peacekeeping fleet to investigate and establish contact. Under the new Reformation Treaty, such actions require unanimous council approval and must follow strict non-intervention guidelines. The question is, how do we approach this? Carefully, Chen said immediately. The Zix don't know anything about us. They've just achieved FTL. They're probably terrified and excited in equal measure. Whatever we do, we cannot repeat what happened with humanity. No unauthorized entry into their space, no resource extraction, no assumptions about their capabilities. I propose a joint human Concordat first contact team, suggested the Pell representative. Show them from the beginning that we are a diverse community. Humans can provide technology and strategy, while Concordat species provide experience and cultural knowledge. I volunteer Vaktesh diplomats, Vexala said, surprising many in the chamber. My people understand what it feels like to meet a power far beyond your own. We can offer perspective. The proposal was refined over several hours. A small, diverse team would approach the Zix with clear, peaceful intentions. They would offer knowledge, friendship, and time to adjust. No pressure. No demands. Just an open hand and patient waiting. Chen watched the council work together with satisfaction. This was what they had been building toward. 48 species collaborating on genuine, peaceful first contact, learning from past mistakes, trying to do better. The mission launched 2 weeks later. The first contact ship carried representatives from 12 species, including 3 humans. They approached the Zix homeworld slowly, broadcasting greetings in multiple languages and mathematical sequences. The Zix responded with caution, but curiosity. Over several months, communication was established. Cultural exchanges began. The Zix learned about the Concordat, asked countless questions, and gradually accepted that they were not alone in the universe. What impressed them most wasn't the technology or the size of the Concordat. It was the story of humanity, how humans had been attacked during their first contact, fought a desperate war, left in self-imposed exile, then returned not as conquerors, but as partners. The Zix found this story hopeful. It meant mistakes could be overcome. It meant different species could learn to coexist peacefully. The Zix joined the Concordat as the 49th member species 8 months after first contact. Their integration was smooth, guided by protocols developed after humanity's traumatic entry. 5 years became 10. The military technology transfer completed on schedule. Human advantages gradually equalized as other species adopted and adapted advanced systems. Some Concordat worlds developed innovations that exceeded human technology in specific areas. True collaboration produced breakthroughs impossible for any single species. The resistance movement never fully disappeared, but it evolved. Instead of demanding human departure, they focused on ensuring Concordat laws applied equally to all species, including humans. They became a check on power rather than a rejection of partnership. This was healthy. It meant the democracy was working. Emperor Kral was released on parole after serving 15 years of his sentence. He was old now, changed by his time in imprisonment and by witnessing the galaxy transform around him. He gave a single public statement upon release. "I tried to destroy humanity because I feared what they represented: change, loss of control, a future where Vaktesh military might was meaningless. I was right to fear change, but wrong to fight it. The galaxy today is better than the one I tried to preserve. I will spend my remaining years trying to understand why I couldn't see that then." On Earth, in the same classroom where human children once learned that aliens didn't exist, now a diverse group of young beings studied together: human Pel, Shrel, Vaktesh, Zix, and a dozen other species, all learning the same curriculum, all preparing to build the future together. The teacher, a human woman named Sarah Chen, granddaughter of the famous ambassador, taught a history lesson about first contact. 500 years ago, we thought we were alone, she explained. 200 years ago, we learned we weren't but chose to hide. 10 years ago, we were forced to reveal ourselves. Today, we're partners with 49 species. Tomorrow, who knows? The galaxy is vast. There are more species to meet, more friends to make, more challenges to overcome together. A young Vaktesh student raised his hand. "Teacher Chen, my grandfather says humans are still the most powerful species in the Concordat. Is that true?" Sarah considered her answer carefully. "In some ways, yes. We have experience and technology others are still learning. But power isn't just about weapons or ships. It's about what you do with those things. Humans chose to share power instead of hoarding it. That choice made us less powerful individually but stronger collectively. Does that make sense?" The student nodded slowly. "I think so. It's like when we work in teams. I'm strong alone, but we're stronger together." "Exactly," Sarah smiled. "And that's the real lesson humanity taught the galaxy. Not that we were powerful, but that we were willing to make ourselves less powerful so everyone could be stronger. That's what partnership means." After class, she walked to her grandmother's office. Ambassador Chen Wei, now retired but still influential, was reviewing proposals for a new interstellar university where all species could study together. "How was class?" the elder Chen asked. "Good, I taught them about first contact. They asked if humans are still the most powerful species." "What did you tell them?" "That we're only as powerful as our willingness to share that power." Chen smiled. "You learned well. That's exactly what we've been trying to teach the galaxy for 10 years. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Concordat territory. 49 species, thousands of worlds, millions of ships moving between systems in peaceful trade and cultural exchange, and somewhere out there beyond explored space, more species waiting to be discovered and welcomed. "You know what the old legends got most wrong?" Chen said. "They called Earth a death world and humans monsters. But Earth is just a planet and humans are just people. We're not special because of where we came from or what we can do. We're special because of what we chose to become. Which is neighbors, friends, partners, species who had power and chose mercy, who had strength and chose sharing, who had every reason to conquer and chose cooperation instead." She looked at her granddaughter, seeing in her the future they had been building. "That's what the legends will say about us 500 years from now. Not that we were myths who became real, but that we were people who chose to be better than our fears and stronger than our anger." Outside the window, Earth spun peacefully in space. Around it, ships from dozens of species came and went, bringing trade, knowledge, and friendship. The blue and green world that had once broadcast fake primitive signals to hide from the galaxy now served as a symbol of what could be achieved when species worked together. In the Concordat Council Chamber, a new symbol had been added to the walls. The golden record from Voyager 1, humanity's ancient probe, now sat in a place of honor with a new plaque beneath it. The plaque read, "We came in peace for all mankind. We left in patience. We returned for justice. We stayed for tomorrow." Below that, added recently in the script of all 49 member species, a new line, "And tomorrow, we build together." A young child, not human but Zix, read the plaque during a school field trip. She didn't understand all the history behind the words, didn't comprehend the wars and tensions and fears that had shaped them. To her, they were just obvious truths. Of course species work together. Of course they built tomorrow as partners. What else would they do? That innocent assumption, that casual acceptance of cooperation as normal, was humanity's greatest achievement. Not the technology they shared or the battles they won or the treaties they signed. The real victory was making peace so normal that children couldn't imagine anything else. The legends had called humans a fairy tale. Then Earth's wrath became the consequence of the Concordate's deeds. But the final truth was simpler and more profound than any legend. Humans were real. They were powerful. They were dangerous when threatened, and they chose every day to be good neighbors instead of conquerors. They chose justice over vengeance. They chose partnership over domination. They chose to build a future where their children could be friends with children from the stars. That choice, made again and again across years and challenges, transformed not just humanity but the entire galaxy. The fairy tale ended not with conquest or destruction, but with something better, with species learning to trust each other, with children playing together regardless of how many legs or eyes or appendages they had, with a galaxy slowly, carefully, hopefully building something that had never existed before, a civilization of civilizations, a community of communities, a future where the word alien meant simply different friend rather than potential threat. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still species who rejected the new order. But it was better than before. And tomorrow would be better than today. And the day after that would bring new challenges and new opportunities. The humans who had once called themselves a fairy tale were now just people. Just neighbors. Just partners in the grand experiment of making dozens of species work together, despite all the reasons they shouldn't be able to. And somewhere in the archives, the old legends were being rewritten, not to erase the truth but to complete it, to add the ending that the ancient storytellers never imagined. The humans returned. The galaxy trembled. And then slowly, carefully, hopefully, the galaxy learned something that changed everything. Fairy tales sometimes come true. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they're better than you feared and kinder than you hoped. The end was just the beginning.